Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening.
And good night to some.
Wherever you are in the world, whatever time zone you're waking up in, welcome back to Sip&Talk. I'm your host, Joe. And let me tell you, I am caffeinated, I am hydrated.
And ready to go. I can feel the energy.
I am ready to roll.
I'm Sunny. As always, just here to sprinkle a little bit of cold, hard data on the fire.
And we are going to need that dynamic today because we have a monster of a show ahead of us.
You really do.
But first, I have to give a huge shout out to all our Sip&Talkers tuning in. We know it is the Lunar New Year celebration across Asia right now.
That's right.
So happy Year of the Horse to everyone celebrating.
Happy Lunar New Year! Gom Shi Fa Kai. It is Monday, February 16th, 2026. And while, half the world is eating dumplings and enjoying the holiday,
Which I'm very jealous of.
we are live in the U.S. studio, the markets are open, and we are watching the world turn.
We never sleep. Well, I don't, anyway. Speaking of waking up, I got to be honest with you.
Yeah.
My latte this morning, it tastes a little bitter.
Oh, no. Did you burn the milk again?
No, the barista's fine, I promise. I think it's the flavor of the market. It tastes like regret. It tastes like the bitterness of all these tech stocks that are just getting absolutely washed away.
That is a very specific flavor profile.
It is. And we've got a show today that is going to cover two, complete extremes. We're looking way, way up at the sky, and we're looking right down at the ground.
That's a really good way to frame it. On the ground, we're talking Wall Street. We're seeing this massive shift in psychology around artificial intelligence.
Right.
And then up in the sky, we have a literal traffic jam forming. China has announced plans that are, they're frankly difficult to wrap your head around.
Astronomical is the word I was going to use.
Ways that works too.
We're talking about China's plan to stuff, and I mean stuff, nearly 200,000 satellites into orbit.
Yeah.
A space Great Wall. And then down here, we have the AI scare trade.
It does sound like a horror movie title.
It really does.
And for a lot of retail investors, I think it feels like a horror movie right now.
So, okay, let's get into it. We have the sky falling and the market crashing. You're supposed to be the calm one. Talk me off the ledge.
I am calm. I am. I'm just looking at the numbers, and the numbers are telling a story that I think most people are missing because they're just reading the headlines.
Okay.
We need to unpack why Wall Street has gone from fear of missing out, FOMO, to just plain fear.
Right, just fear.
And we're going to explain why China is essentially trying to rewrite the laws of physics in low Earth orbit.
Okay, let's sip and talk.
Yeah.
Let's start on the ground. The AI scare trade. For the last, 2 years? Since ChatGPT and all that just exploded?
Yeah, about that.
The narrative has been buy. If you didn't own AI stocks, you were basically an idiot. What changed?
The narrative flipped completely. We've moved from what I would call phase 1 to phase 2. Phase 1 was the AI gold rush, everyone buying the picks and shovels. Phase 2 is the AI reality check.
Uh-oh.
And specifically, investors aren't just scrambling to buy the winners anymore. They are frantically trying to identify the victims.
The victims.
They're looking for the companies that are going to be, for lack of a better word, killed by AI.
So it's like a game of musical chairs, but all the chairs are on fire.
That's a perfect analogy. And we have a case study that just hit the news cycle this week. Did you see the report on that logistics company, Algorithm?
Oh, I did. This is the story that everyone's whispering about on the trading floors. So Algorithm, great name, by the way.
Very clever.
They released a report saying they improved their operational efficiency by 400%.
400%.
And here's the kicker. They did it without adding a single new staff member.
Right. If this were 2024 or even 2025, that news would have sent their stock through the roof.
Absolutely.
Investors would have said, look at that productivity, look at those margins. But in 2026, the market panicked.
Okay, wait, hold on. I need you to explain that to me. I'm going to play devil's advocate here.
Go for it.
I'm holding Algorithm stock.
Uh-huh.
I see 400% efficiency. I see margins exploding because they aren't paying salaries. Why am I selling? That sounds like a money printing machine.
You're selling because you're finally looking at the macro picture. Here's the nuance that the headlines missed.
Okay.
Algorithm is a mid-cap logistics firm. They didn't just integrate AI, they replaced the entire middle layer of their dispatch and routing team.
The whole team.
Gone. They reported a 400% efficiency gain, specifically in route optimization.
So they're faster and cheaper. Again, why is that bad for them?
Because the market looked at Algorithm and realized, if everyone can do this, the service becomes a commodity. If AI drives the cost of logistics down to basically zero, algorithm loses all its pricing power. But, and this is the important part, the scare trade isn't just about selling algorithm.
It's not.
No, it's about selling the customers of algorithm.
Okay, you lost me there. Break that down for me.
Okay. Who buys logistics software? Big shipping firms, right? Think FedEx, UPS, DHL.
Right, the giants.
If AI can automate logistics so easily that a medium-sized company like Algorithm can do it with basically zero staff, why does FedEx need to pay Algorithm anymore?
Oh.
Why don't they just spin up their own internal AI agent for a tiny fraction of the cost?
Oh, wow. Okay, so the moat is just gone.
The moat has evaporated. The scare trade is the sudden, terrifying realization that AI might democratize intelligence so much that nobody can charge a premium for it anymore.
So it's a deflationary nuke.
It's a deflationary nuke going off right in the middle of the software sector.
That is terrifying for any SaaS company. So the narrative isn't AI will help us work better. It's AI will do the work and your business model is now completely unnecessary.
Precisely. This is what we call valuation reset. And it's creating a blast zone across several sectors.
A blast zone.
It's not just logistics. Look at the entire outsourcing industry. Software outsourcing, legal consulting, tax management.
Oh, all the white-collar work. The bread and butter of the professional middle class.
Exactly. I mean, there was a company, Altruist, that just launched a new AI tool for wealth management this week.
I saw that.
It automates portfolio balancing and, tax loss harvesting. The result, every publicly traded wealth management stock took a nosedive.
Because if an AI can manage your taxes better than a human for like a tenth of the cost, why are we paying these enormous fees to these big firms?
Why indeed? It makes perfect, brutal sense.
It's brutal. And I've heard this is even bleeding into commercial real estate, too.
That is the other shoe that is just beginning to drop.
How so?
Well, think about it. If AI allows companies to run with 400% more efficiency and with way fewer people,
right,
and those remaining people are basically just managing AI agents from home, who is renting the giant office buildings in downtown Manhattan?
No one.
No one. The fear is that AI is going to make remote work even more extreme. We're talking empty towers, defaulting loans.
A domino effect.
A huge one. But what's really, really rattling the cages on Wall Street isn't just these mid-cap companies.
Yeah.
It's that even the big tech giants, the untouchables, aren't safe from this new skepticism. Look at Apple.
Apple's down 5% this week. I thought everyone loved their new AI iPhones. The hardware upgrade cycle was supposed to be a sure thing.
It was. They did love them. Until they started doing the math.
The math.
Yeah. The market is seriously starting to doubt the whole AI hardware upgrade cycle narrative. The question being asked is, do consumers really need to buy a $1,500 phone just to run a slightly better chatbot?
I mean, I love my phone, but $1,500 is a mortgage payment for some people.
Exactly. The valuation was priced for perfection. It assumed everyone on Earth would upgrade immediately. Now investors are starting to wonder if the demand is actually there.
And then there's Amazon.
Amazon dropped an absolute bombshell. They announced a capital expenditure plan for 2026 of $200 billion.
200 billion with a B.
Yes.
That is the entire GDP of a small European country.
It is. And it's mostly going to data centers and custom chips. And instead of cheering this huge, ambitious investment,
they panic.
Investors are terrified. They're worried this AI arms race is just going to burn through every last dollar of their free cash flow.
It's a game of chicken.
It's a total game of chicken. They have to spend the money to stay ahead of Google and Microsoft, but spending the money completely ruins their balance sheet. It's a lose-lose.
So if I'm understanding this, the AI scare trade is basically the realization that AI costs a fortune to build. It destroys the value of traditional companies.
Right.
And it might not even get consumers to spend as much as we thought it would.
That is a very, very succinct summary of why your latte tastes bitter this morning.
It's the taste of a bubble hissing air.
Precisely.
Well, all right. Let's leave the bitter ground for a minute and look up. Maybe the view is better from space.
Maybe.
Although, judging by our notes here, it's getting pretty crowded up there.
Crowded is a bit of an understatement. We are about to witness a population explosion in orbit.
So we all know Elon Musk is basically the king of orbit right now.
For now.
Starlink has, around 9,000 satellites up there?
Yeah.
And we all used to think, wow, 9,000? That is a lot of metal flying around.
It seemed like a lot. I mean, astronomers were already complaining pretty loudly.
But then China enters the chat.
Yeah.
And they just submitted filings to the International Telecommunication Union, the ITU.
Global regulator for this stuff.
Right, for something called the CTC1 and CTC2 plans. Run the numbers for me.
Okay, so this new filing, just this one, is for roughly 19,300 satellites.
19,000, okay.
But that's just this specific tranche. When you combine this with their previous plans, the Thousand Sails constellation and the Guoan National Network Plan China is now officially aiming for a grand total of nearly 200,000 satellites.
200,000. Yeah. Okay, I need to pause on that number for a second. We throw around words like thousands and millions on this show like they're nothing.
You do.
But let's ground this. If I go out to the desert tonight, on a perfectly clear night, and I look up, how many stars can I actually see with my naked eye?
If you have perfect vision and zero light pollution, maybe 2,500, 5,000 on a good night.
Okay, so China is proposing to put up 40 times more metal objects than there are visible stars in the entire night sky.
Roughly, yes. If they actually pull this off, the night sky will technically be more satellite than star.
That is claustrophobic.
Uh-huh.
Are they trying to block out the sun? Is this a Dyson sphere? What is happening?
It's not about blocking the sun. It's about blocking the competition.
Okay.
This is a strategy we call orbit grabbing.
Explain that. Space is infinite, isn't it? Why can't we just stack them higher?
Space is infinite, but low Earth orbit LEO is not. It's a very limited resource.
LEO.
We want these satellites in the Goldilocks zone. That's roughly 500 to 1,200 kilometers up.
Why there specifically?
Because it's close enough to Earth that your internet is fast. The latency is low because the signal doesn't have to travel very far.
Makes sense.
But it's also high enough that atmospheric drag doesn't immediately pull them back down to Earth. The problem is that shell around the Earth is a sphere. There is a finite surface area.
Right.
If you put 200,000 cars on a highway, eventually you get a traffic jam. If you put 200,000 satellites moving at 17,000 miles per hour in that sphere,
you get a demolition derby.
You get a minefield. And that's the orbit grabbing strategy. By filing these plans with the ITU, China is essentially staking a claim.
They're calling dibs.
They're saying, this orbit, this frequency, this is ours. Even if they haven't launched a single one yet, they are reserving all the parking spots.
It's a land grab in the sky.
It's a space Great Wall. The strategic goal here isn't just about getting better internet in Shanghai.
Right.
It's to ensure that China is not surrounded and contained by a U.S.-controlled mesh network. They look at Starlink, they look at the U.S. military using Starlink in conflicts.
And they see a noose.
They see a noose tightening around them, they want to build a shield.
But let's be real for a second. Filing paperwork is one thing. I mean, I can file a plan to build a mansion on the moon tomorrow.
Right.
Actually building it is a whole other story.
And that is the reality check.
Yeah.
Filing with the ITU is just paperwork. Launching rockets is physics and economics. And right now, there is a massive gap.
How big of a gap?
SpaceX is launching rockets every few days. They're reusing the boosters, driving the cost per kilogram down to historic lows. China, they are still lagging behind SpaceX by about 5 to 10 years in launch frequency and cost control.
So this 200,000 number it's a wish list, an
Yes.
aspiration.
It's a strategic vision. It's a signal of intent. It is absolutely not a schedule for next week.
Okay.
But, and this is a very big but, China has a long history of taking these impossible infrastructure projects like their high-speed rail network and just brute forcing them into existence.
Right.
So we should not dismiss this as just pure fantasy.
It's a human wave strategy, but with satellites. We keep comparing the numbers, 9,000 versus 200,000. But this isn't just about who has better Wi-Fi in the mountains.
No, it's not.
This feels much, much bigger. It feels like a battle for the save point of the planet.
The save point. I like that.
Yeah, like who controls the backup drive for civilization. And it seems like Musk and China have totally different philosophies on why they're even doing this.
That is a brilliant observation. You're absolutely right. It's not just technology, it's philosophy.
So break it down. What's Musk's philosophy?
Okay, let's look at Elon Musk's philosophy first. We can call it the terminal-driven data ecology.
Okay, fancy words. In English, please.
For Musk, the satellite is not the product. The car is the product. The robot is the product. The big boss of his entire ecosystem is Tesla. The satellites are just the support system.
Right. And I read that Tesla is testing Starlink antennas that are built right into the roofs of the cars now.
Exactly. Think about 2026. What is the single biggest hurdle for self-driving cars?
Dead zones.
Dead zones. If you're in a robotaxi in the middle of nowhere and the cellular network drops, the car is blind. It can't talk to the brain.
But with a Starlink antenna built into the roof.
No more dead zones. If cellular fails, the car just talks to the satellite. It maintains a continuous connection to the Dojo supercomputer. This allows for real-time training, data uploads. It ensures the robotaxi fleet never becomes an island.
So it's a commercial loop.
It's a perfect self-reinforcing circle. The satellites provide the global net.
Right.
The net sells the cars and the Optimus robots.
Yeah.
The profit from the cars and robots funds the Starship rockets.
Yeah.
And the rockets.
They take us to Mars.
They take us to Mars. It's an ecosystem designed for expansion.
Okay. Now, contrast that with China's philosophy.
Completely different. This is sovereignty-driven defense.
Defense. That's the key word.
For China, this is all about digital sovereignty. They are essentially building a space intranet, or a space firewall.
But why? I mean, I've always wondered about this. China already has the Great Firewall. They already control their own internet. Why are they so terrified of being switched off if they're already kind of closed off?
Because being closed off internally is a totally different thing from being cut off externally.
Okay.
Think about how the internet actually works. Where does the data go?
The cloud.
It goes through undersea cables. 95% of all global data traffic travels through physical fiber optic cables laid on the bottom of the ocean.
And those cables can be cut.
And those cables can be cut. In the geopolitical tension of 2026, the fear of cable cutting is very, very real.
Right.
If the U.S. or another adversary decides to cut those cables, China becomes a complete information island. They lose contact with their global supply chains, their overseas banks, their diplomats, all their Belt and Road infrastructure projects.
Oh, I see. So if the cables get cut, the satellites are the backup plan.
They're the only plan. They need a space-based network to control their global reach without relying on U.S.-controlled infrastructure or these incredibly vulnerable sea cables.
So it's about survival.
At its core, yes.
So Musk wants to connect everything to sell you a robot, and China wants to connect everything so they don't go dark in a war.
It's a stark difference, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah.
And, you know, speaking of war, we need to talk about the part of this that isn't just about data.
Right.
We have to talk about the hardcore turn.
Yeah. This is where the conversation gets a little darker.
These 200,000 satellites, they are not just for TikTok and diplomatic emails.
Not at all. They have a very serious military dimension.
I think is what?
We call it battlefield transparency.
That sounds like a marketing buzzword. What does it actually mean?
It means there is nowhere left to hide. But before we even get to the surveillance, let's talk about navigation.
Okay.
You know GPS, right? The American system. China has its own version called Beidou.
Right. I've heard of it.
Currently, the Beidou satellites are in a high orbit. That's really far away. So the signal is pretty weak by the time it hits the ground.
Which means it's easy to jam.
It's very easy to jam. If you're in a war zone with heavy electronic warfare, that high orbit signal just gets drowned out in the noise.
And your missiles get lost.
Your missiles get lost. Your drones go blind. But if you have 200,000 satellites in low Earth orbit, just a few hundred kilometers up, you can use them to reinforce the Beidou signal. This is called LEOPNT.
LEOPT.
Positioning, navigation, and timing.
So it's like putting a megaphone right next to the receiver.
That's a great way to put it. The result is centimeter-level accuracy for your missiles and your drones, even in the middle of a heavy jamming environment.
That's a game changer.
It's a huge game changer. It threatens the defense systems of the entire Indo-Pacific region because you can't just jam the guidance systems anymore.
And then, of course, there's the surveillance part.
And then there's the surveillance part. With 200,000 eyes in the sky, the revisit rate, which is how often a satellite flies over a specific spot on Earth,
right,
it drops from hours to minutes or even seconds.
So you can track a moving target in near real time.
You can track an aircraft carrier. You can track a Mogul missile launcher truck as it moves through a forest.
Yeah.
In the past, you could move your troops when you knew the satellite was passing over.
Right. There were windows of opportunity.
Now, the satellite is always there.
That's battlefield transparency.
It makes covert movements virtually impossible. But, and I have to stress this, the surveillance is actually the polite threat here.
The polite threat. What's the impolite one?
The dark scenario, the one that Pentagon wargamers are losing sleep over, is the Kessler weaponization.
The Kessler syndrome. That's the thing from the movie Gravity, right? Where debris hits debris and creates more debris.
Right. But in the movie, it was an accident. The fear now is that it becomes a deliberate strategy. Think about the economics of space warfare. The U.S. relies on what are called exquisite systems.
Meaning expensive.
Meaning very expensive. We have spy satellites like the KH-11 Keyhole. These things are the size of a school bus, they cost billions of dollars each, and they are technological miracles.
And there aren't very many of them.
Exactly. They are few, and they are precious. Now look at China's plan. They're talking about mass-producing cheap, disposable satellites, let's say $200,000 a unit.
Which is pocket change in terms of defense spending.
In a hot war, you don't need a fancy anti-satellite missile. You don't need a laser.
What do you need?
You just command one of your cheap, toaster-sized satellites to adjust its orbit by a fraction of a degree, right into the path of the billion-dollar U.S. Keyhole satellite.
A kamikaze run.
A kamikaze run in space. At orbital velocities 17,000 miles per hour, a paint chip hits with the force of a grenade. A whole satellite. It vaporizes the target. But here's the nightmare part. The collision creates a massive cloud of shrapnel. That shrapnel spreads out into a ring around the Earth, and it tears through everything else in that altitude.
It burns the bridge behind you.
It denies that orbit to everyone. If China feels they are losing the information war, they could theoretically salt the Earth of low Earth orbit, turn it into a debris field so dense that nobody can fly there for 100 years.
That's not just a military tactic. That's an environmental crime against the future of humanity.
It's a scorched Earth policy, but for space.
Wow. We went from the AI scare trade to space apocalypse.
Mm-hmm.
This is not helping my bitter coffee situation at all.
I told you I'd bring the data.
Okay, but surely if we're seeing this, the U.S. government is seeing this, are we just naked under this God mode surveillance?
No, absolutely not. The ground rules of the game have changed, but the response is already well in motion.
Okay, give me the playbooks. What are the U.S. and its allies doing about this?
Well, there are two main playbooks being written right now. One by the U.S. military, and another by its regional partners like Japan and Taiwan.
Let's start with the U.S.
The U.S. strategy can be summed up as resilience through proliferation, or PLEO.
Proliferation, meaning just build more stuff.
Meaning, don't build a few big, juicy, expensive targets. Build a swarm. If China wants to use a human wave tactic with their satellites,
right,
the U.S. is countering with a Hydra tactic.
Cut off one head, two more grow back.
Exactly. This is the entire logic behind Starshield, which is the military version of Starlink. The math is simple.
Okay.
If China manages to shoot down 10 of my satellites, I want to have 5,000 more ready to take their place. It creates a powerful economic asymmetry.
Explain that term.
An anti-satellite missile can cost millions of dollars to launch. A single Starlink satellite costs maybe a few $100,000. If you are shooting $1 million missile at my cheap satellite,
you go bankrupt before I run out of target.
You go bankrupt first.
Right.
Exactly. And it's not just about money, it's also about speed. In 2026, we've seen military drills where SpaceX has demonstrated emergency launches. They can get a replacement satellite on the launch pad and into orbit within 48 hours.
48 hours. That is faster than Amazon Prime delivery sometimes.
It's plug-and-play warfare. You knock one down, we plug another one in. That resilience, that speed, is the core of the U.S. defense against the strategy.
Okay, so that's the U.S. side of it. But what about the neighbors? You know, Taiwan and Japan are right on the front line of this space Great Wall.
Right.
They can't exactly out-launch China.
No, they can't. So their strategy is completely different. They are focusing on electronic warfare, or EW.
Jamming.
Think of it as an invisibility cloak. Japan is deploying a new electronic warfare unit on Yonaguni Island this April.
And Yonaguni is where?
It's only about 110 kilometers from Taiwan.
Wow, that is extremely close. Right in their backyard.
The tactic is purely defensive. When they detect a Chinese satellite scan coming in, they blast high-intensity interference signals straight up into the sky.
So what does the Chinese satellite see?
It sees snow, static. It doesn't see the ships. It doesn't see the troops. It just sees noise.
Digital camouflage.
Exactly. And Taiwan is pushing for something they call a digital bulletproof vest.
I like that.
They're heavily investing in satellite redundancy and building their own autonomous LEO systems. 2026 is a huge validation year for Taiwan's first two domestic low-orbit communication satellites.
They want their own backup drive, their own save point.
They want to make sure that even if the undersea cables are cut, and even if GPS is jammed, they have a way to talk. And they're also working on ground-based interference.
To do what?
to make those PLA guidance satellites get lost when they approach Taiwanese airspace.
So it's a very high-tech game of cat and mouse.
It is, but it shows that while the threat is massive, the countermeasures are becoming just as sophisticated.
You know, hearing about all this spending, 200,000 satellites, these massive rockets, all this electronic warfare, it reminds me of something.
What's that?
History class. The Soviet Union.
Ah, the classic comparison.
In the 1980s, the USSR basically spent itself into oblivion trying to keep up with the US in the space race and the arms race.
Right.
Is China just doing the same thing? Is this Great Wall going to bankrupt them?
That is the big question on everyone's mind. Is China the new USSR?
Well,
is it? I actually did a bit of a data dive on this because it comes up so much, and there are some very, very key differences.
okay.
First, just look at the raw spending percentages. In the 80s, the Soviet Union was spending somewhere between 15% and 20% of its entire GDP on the military.
That is huge. That's completely unsustainable.
It destroyed their civilian economy, China. Even with all this new satellite stuff, their military spending is estimated to be around 1.5 to 1.7% of GDP.
Ooh, that's manageable.
It is. It's high in absolute numbers because their economy is huge, but relative to the size of their economy, it's not breaking the bank. Not yet.
And what about the economy itself?
That's the second and maybe the most important difference. The USSR was economically isolated. They didn't really trade with the West. China is the manufacturing center of the entire global supply chain. This is crucial. If the Soviet Union collapsed, the world basically shrugged. If China collapses,
We lose our iPhones.
we lose our iPhones, our cars, our medicine, we lose everything. The world loses a limb. The global economy would go into a deep depression. That integration is their shield.
And they have a huge private sector. The USSR didn't have an Alibaba or a Tencent.
Exactly. China has a robust, if state-controlled, tech and consumer sector. So the experts, places like The Economist, S&P Global, they aren't predicting a Soviet-style collapse.
What are they predicting?
A Japan-style long stagnation.
Lost decades.
Slow growth. An aging population. And a brand new risk we talked about earlier. AI substitution.
It all comes full circle. Back to the AI scare trade.
It connects.
Yeah.
If AI starts replacing factory workers and white-collar workers in China on a mass scale, causing huge unemployment, while their real estate bubble is still deflating, that is the danger zone.
So the risk isn't that they run out of money for satellites. The risk is that their own people run out of jobs.
Exactly. And my cold take on this whole situation, a Chinese collapse is not a victory for the West.
No.
It's a trigger for a global crisis. We're all way too connected for that.
That is a very sobering thought. We're kind of cheering for the competition, but we can't afford for the opponent to just forfeit the game.
It's a very delicate, very strange balance.
Well, this has been a journey. We started with bitter coffee, we went to space, we dodged some orbital debris, and we ended with the threat of global stagnation.
Just another Monday here on Sip and Talk.
But seriously, it's just wild to think about. The future wars might be happening in space, in a total vacuum, where we can't even see them.
Right.
And we're down here worrying about our Wi-Fi speed and our stock portfolios, while 500 kilometers above us, there's a game of King of the Hill happening at 17,000 miles per hour.
It does have those Cold War vibes for sure. But you know me, I always like to try and find the silver lining.
Please do. I think we all need one right now.
Military technology often trickles down to the civilian world. The internet itself started as a military project, ARPANET. GPS started as a military project. This massive competition, this race to build these satellite mesh networks might finally solve the connectivity problem for the entire human race.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, in a few years, we might actually have true global roaming. Fast, affordable internet anywhere on the planet for everyone, because the infrastructure was built for the generals, but it'll end up being sold to the civilians.
That is the great paradox of technology, isn't it? It's so often created for destruction, but it ends up bridging civilization.
I could not have said it better myself.
Well, that makes the coffee taste a little bit sweeter. Just a little.
Glad to hear it.
We're going to wrap it up there. But before you go, just remember.
Yeah.
Tonight, when you look up at the stars.
Oh, boy. Here he goes.
There'll be 200,000 new eyes looking back at you.
That is a horror movie ending. Why do you always do this?
I got to keep them on their toes.
Fair enough.
Oh, and one last thing before we sign off for real. We have to mention our old friend Mickey.
Oh, yes. Mickey.
He prepared a very special Lunar New Year dinner I saw the photos, and I am incredibly jealous if you want to see what he cooked.
It looked amazing.
And maybe get some inspiration for your own post-holiday detox or retox, whatever you're into.
Yeah.
You have to check out his YouTube channel. It's Mickey to Life.
Go give him a sub. And while you're at it, please subscribe to Sip&Talk if you haven't already.
Right.
We need the validation.
We really do. And just a quick disclaimer. We are just two people with microphones and a whole lot of caffeine.
That's true.
We provide facts and analysis for you to do your own independent thinking. We are not endorsing any political views, any specific countries, and we're absolutely not giving financial advice.
Please, please do not trade your life savings based on our coffee talk. Do your own research.
Yep.
Stay curious, stay skeptical, and keep looking up. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.